All right, we are recording. That's what the red lights mean.
Gotcha.
So, just in case you didn't know that.
Red lights. Red light, go. Or
All right, guys, welcome back to episode number 2 of Behind the Reel podcast. I have my good friend Marco Munoz here with me.
hey, hey.
Marco is on the show because he beats us in tournaments a lot, and he wins these trophies because of it. So, I'm assuming because of his experience in kicking my butt in tournaments that maybe some of you guys might want to hear what goes on inside this guy's head. So, we've got a list of questions similar to the ones that we asked on the first series, the first episode, that is. So, if you haven't seen that, I'll link that up above so you can check that out as well. Marco is Angler of the Year in the Air Capital Kayak Anglers Tournament Series for the third time.
Yeah,
So he's been around the block a few times.
a little bit.
He's won some tournaments outside of the Air Capital tournament scene as well. Anyways, we will get into it. What we will start off with is just kind of an introduction into Marco personally for you that don't know him, or maybe that don't know him um, off the water. So let me see here. I got my list of questions here, and if my phone wants to cooperate, it's just a black screen at the moment. Oh, nope, not that one. Okay. All right, so we'll do a little introduction into Marco Munoz. We did ask you guys here recently, what other things would you like to know about the guest on the show? And Mr. Brent Salfin did ask, what do you do for a living?
Uh, I'm an electrician for Ray's and Lowry Electric. I've been there for, oh dang, I've been there almost 15, well, a little over 15 years now. So I've been with the company for quite a while. And the electrical thing, I don't know, I just needed something to do to make money, and it seemed kind of interesting. So that's pretty much how I got into it. And company I work for is great. I love it's a good time, and yeah, it's something different every day. So that's nice going. But yeah, it's
He's been out there in those frigid temperatures the last couple weeks as well.
a little bit, not directly in it, but it's enough to feel it, and it's not fun.
Sure, sure. So,
Anyway,
yeah, Marco, he is an electrician and he does electrician things. So,
yeah,
that's what he does outside of fishing. That's what he does for a living. So, Brent, thank you for the question. If you guys come up with any other questions that you would like to ask the next guest on the show, just drop a comment in the comment section below. So, kind of number one is just what got you into fishing, what got you into kayak fishing. You can make this as long or as short as you like.
I got into fishing. It was probably been uh, about 10 or 11 years. Growing up, I didn't do a whole lot of fishing. Uh, my dad would take us every now and then, just basically catfishing kind of things, just bobber and rod and little worms and whatnot. And I did spend countless summers just playing in the river. Me and my brothers, my older brother mainly, we'd go and every summer we'd spend the day across the street from our parents' house at the Walnut River, and we really got into catching crawdads. Was our big thing. We'd go out and take our big seining nets and go out there and seine in the river and catch crawdads and stick them in a 5 gallon bucket because RJ, I think it was RJ Bait and Tackle back in the day. Now it's something different there in El Dorado, and they used to buy our crawdads from us. So we'd load up our bucket and haul them down there and sell them, and they'd give us a few bucks, and we'd stop on our way back at the
50 cents
gas
a piece
station.
or something.
Yeah, it was pretty minuscule, but it was enough to we'd walk back and stop at the gas station and buy our candy and beef jerky chew and
Heck
whatnot.
yeah.
And,
Casey's, baby.
yeah, it was a good time, and but so I always loved the outdoors and hanging out in the river, but what really got me into fishing and bass fishing in particular like I said, about 10 years ago was I was a pretty heavy drinker actually, and it got to where I wasn't comfortable with how much I was drinking, and it was I mean I was still going to work and everything, but I didn't enjoy where my life was at that point with the drinking and all that. So decided I needed to find something different to occupy my time once I quit drinking, and I worked with a guy, and he actually got me into bass fishing. His name is Martin Wilson. He's a great dude, and yeah, we started fishing, and he's actually the guy that got me into St. Croix rods, and still
Man,
use
stuck
St.
with
Croix.
him ever
Yeah,
since.
I haven't changed from St. Croix. I've stuck with it.
Nice.
The reels have changed, but then
A few times.
yeah, the reels have changed a few times.
He was a die-hard quantum guy when I met him.
Yeah, I was all
Did you
about
have
quantum.
something before that?
Nope, quantum was what the Martin got me started
And
on.
then lose?
I dabbled with some lures, which I still use.
And then now
lures
we're
and-
talking like some DCs?
Yeah, Shimano, Corrado DCs are what I've kind of wound up on, which I still use the Exos, Quantum Exos,
Yeah.
and the Lose, which I still really like also. But and crankbaits. Crankbaits is what he started me on. Like I didn't know anything about bass fishing, and he basically I don't know why that's what he showed me and what I got stuck on, but it's what he used, and so I crankbait fished, shallow crankbaits. It's just I cast and reel them and didn't know about bumping them off of stuff, and basically I just retrieve them straight, and they still caught fish every now and then, but and yeah, we'd go and fish at local ponds around Wichita and all that, and some of them maybe you weren't supposed to fish on, but there were the ones that had the fish, so and from the crankbait fishing, I personally started watching different YouTube videos and informational videos, and got myself basically into all the other techniques. Well, not all of them. I shouldn't say that. The next one I really picked up was Texas rig, and from there the kayak. I'd bought a 12-foot aluminum V bottom with a little, I don't remember, it was like 3.5 horsepower. It was weak. So
I
basically
remember seeing that thing sitting in the parking lot.
Yeah, it was basically a trolling motor, but dabbled in a V bottom aluminum boat for a bit, and then I also have dabbled with canoes, and then also a one-man pontoon boat, one of them little oar one-man pontoons. Never ever buy one of those. They're so terrible. And then finally I found a little 10-foot used Pelican, that the Angler 100 or 110, something like that. Just a little tiny crappy $150 plastic one that I bought from some guy, and it just blew up from there. I absolutely loved the kayak, even though it was tiny, scary, very tippy, but it was just so much fun. I loved every part of it, the paddling, and how skinny a water you could get into, no maintenance. I couldn't stand the motor maintenance on the boat thing. It was a pain, and probably would have been better if I bought a new motor. But yeah, then kayaks, it was so
What
much
is it
fun.
about? So obviously it's not so much the vessel. You're not a kayaker. And I tell people this all the time, like I would not have a kayak if it wasn't for fishing. I don't know if you're the same way, but
Yeah.
so it's not that you're a diehard kayak guy. It's more about fishing. So I'm curious to know what it is about fishing that keeps you coming back, because I know you are as hardcore a fisherman, and you're like, it's in your blood at this point. It's just like something you can't get out of your mind. You wake up in the morning and you're thinking about it, and you go to sleep at night and you're thinking about it. Like, what is it about fishing that keeps you coming back?
Uh,
Have you thought
I
about
think
that
it's
before?
mostly it's just being out in nature again, like when I was a kid. Uh, just being out there, basically, like, because obviously you're not gonna catch fish every time, and uh, like sometimes that'll get a bit discouraging when I'm not catching the fish, but most of the time it's not too much of a bother.
Mhm.
It's being out there in nature and just and a lot of it is with my dad now. I'm really enjoying having my dad out there with me. And the catching the fish, obviously, that's so much fun. And when you get into those 18 plus, those really get me going. And I know that's not a super big fish for a lot of guys. Most guys think those are kind of small.
Well, around here, an 18 plus is a big fish.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Especially in a tournament. You get a couple of those, and you're in good
solid.
shape.
You feel, pretty solid once you catch a couple 18s. And, but yeah, just feeling that pull. And also not knowing what you're going to catch is pretty exciting also. Because sometimes you will catch those random catfish and decent sized crappie that'll bite onto a bass jig. And
some memorable
drum
bass.
There was one day at Chase fishing.
You know what I was trying to say. Sorry, I couldn't spit it out. But
yeah, I had one day where I wouldn't even mind targeting them really, because drum, they get big. They get real big, and they can pull.
Fight.
Yeah, they can pull. They don't just kind of lay dead like a walleye or anything. And them drum, I enjoy them. They're a good time.
So you caught a real big one, or?
Yeah, out at Chase there was one day that I caught. I think it was probably five of them. That, I mean, they were good. I didn't even measure them.
Dude, I had,
but a good solid, getting close to 3-footers. They were big fish.
I had one at Melbourne, and it was about that size, and it was longer than my board. I mean, it was probably like 31 inches, 32 inches. And that thing, I thought I had a flathead, like a big, huge, what I would call a huge, flathead on the other end of the line. I mean, it was a big fish, but I imagine that probably only weighed, 10 pounds or less.
Yeah. And I'd say another one that was probably the most exciting bycatch was actually on the little 10-foot pelican. And I was out at El Dorado Lake fishing in a creek with my dad and Caleb, my good friend Caleb. And I hooked into a wiper. I'd never even seen a wiper. I didn't know what it was. And I pulled that thing in, and it was another one that was, I didn't even have a measuring board or a scale back then.
We might be able to drop in a picture. I think I've seen this picture. Maybe we can drop that in the video here.
That'd be cool. Yeah,
it's a good
definitely on Facebook out there. But yeah, it's a good sized wiper. And yeah, that was a fun one because it pulled that little 10-footer around, and that was on a crankbait because it was when I got into the kayak fishing. That was one of the main things I was still throwing was just the old crankbait.
Yep. Cool, man. Well, yeah, that's something that I didn't have in the questions, but that's kind of a cool question. Maybe we can add that in. Let me know what you guys think about that. Your most memorable non-bass catch. I kind of like that. For me, I'd have to say that drum was probably one of them. Another one that is worth mentioning, we were out at Kingman, and it was in the summertime, and there's a spring out there. There's only one hole basically in that entire lake where it's more than 6 foot of water. And so I'm thinking the bass are going to be up there keeping cool in that deeper water, and I'm throwing a shaky head on a spinning setup, medium light, spinning rod with a 2000 size spinning reel, 10-pound braid and 10-pound fluorocarbon leader, and I hook a 26-inch pike on it, and that was not what I was expecting, but I basically just forgot about the tournament, and we fished for pike the rest of the day. Eric Molina joined me,
I remember that tournament.
And he caught a couple of them, and I caught a couple of them, and we weren't in contention to win it, so we were just we just decided we were going to catch some pike.
Target the pike. I've only caught one of them pike, and it was before I knew any of the pike were in there either. And mine was a little tiny guy when I caught it. Yeah.
I don't know. Kingman's kind of a weird deal right now. I don't think we put it on the schedule because we're really not sure the health of that lake right now. I think what we need to do, and for you Air Capital guys that are watching this, maybe go down there, fish it for us. Another one too to keep in mind is Eureka City Lake, because I'm getting some negative feedback on that one. Supposedly that one has gone through some a fish kill or something. I went up there not too long ago, caught one little 12-inch bass, and I fished it pretty hard. It was very cold. I mean, so that could have had a lot to do with it. But some guys up there that even manage the lake are telling me that they're not seeing a lot of bass being caught out of there, and not a lot of big bass at all. So, anyways, Marco, this is the first time he's hearing it, but you guys as well. Go to Eureka, see if you can do some reconnaissance for us. Find out if it's all just them trying to keep us out of their water or whatever. I know Kingman, they killed off a bunch of vegetation, and that's been something that we're not fans of at all. I don't know if it was intentional. I don't understand it. But I feel like that's why the bass were really thriving in that lake.
Yeah.
And they have come so far. We were just looking at a picture in 2016 where we fished a tournament out there, and that almost looks like a totally different lake.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember in 2015, before the group started their tournaments, we all met up out there, and the grass was so thick you couldn't even hardly fish it.
Yeah.
So we're happy to see some of that get cleared up, but like the pads are gone.
I don't know what happened to pads everywhere last year.
Yeah, Lions, Butler, Kingman. So I don't know if they're out there just like spraying everything, or what.
I'm not sure.
Or if it had something to do with the flooding the year before.
Could be.
I mean, I don't know.
The pads is frustrating though. I miss the pad fishing so much.
He's a big frog guy.
Last year was just such a kick to the face. I was so excited when we had the Lion tournament and the pads were just gone. They just weren't there. Mm-hmm. And then I went to Kingman a couple times and the pads just never came in.
How did you do out there?
Kingman?
Yeah.
I didn't do very well. And
I was hearing that from a few different people.
It was like the ones I did catch were quality, but the numbers just weren't there, and I was just the pads. I just want the pads back.
Yeah. No, the pads are fun. If you guys fish with Marco or have fished with him in years past, you'll know that he slays the frog.
Oh, yeah.
That was, and we were talking about his favorite lures earlier, and he didn't mention the frog. That's sad, but Kansas Department of
Wildlife,
KDWPT, Department of Wildlife.
Figure out what's going on with your pads.
Yeah,
We need it back.
Bring the pads back.
The pads need to come.
We need the pads back.
Quit dumping chemicals.
Yeah, so we're mad at you for that, but we'll let it slide this time. Okay. All right. So hopefully you guys have a good idea of who Marco is. Something I'd like to add to at least his character. Marco has been there since day one with me. I started this group up, and just almost immediately I found out about Marco because he went up to Northeast Kansas and fished with the NECA guys. Shout out to the NECA guys. They're the OGs of this, Kansas kayak fishing stuff. So, Josie, without Josie, I wouldn't have even thought of starting a club. So, and that's what sprung this whole thing for, I think, all of us. So, but, I started this club, and I quickly found out that Marco went up there and kicked everybody's butt. Did you win?
Yeah.
At Bone Creek?
Very first tournament I ever fished.
Like 90-something? What was it? Some stupid.
It was 89 inches.
Okay.
But I will say it's because I submitted my fish wrong. I would have had 91 officially, but I did. I was, like I said,
You called the wrong fish?
Yeah. It was my very first tournament, and a friend went with me out to Bone Creek, and I just decided I was like, I want to go fish a tournament. I don't know why. It just seemed interesting, and the venue sounded neat. Bone Creek, it just sounded neat. I was like, I'm going to check out this lake, and really glad I did because it's an amazing lake, super fun.
Did you think it was going to turn into this?
Like oh, no.
I mean, not only the tournament, but like here you are 6 years later, 5 years later.
Not at all.
Just like live and breathe this stuff.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be fun thing to go do. And
so never fished that lake before?
No, I'd never seen the lake.
And I want to say that was a spinnerbait bite that day?
Yeah, because that's what I was big into at that time. There's always my favorite baits always change. It always changes. It seems to be like I'll decide I'm going to try this style this year, and then it just turns into what I do basically. And it was spinnerbaits that.
Do you move on to another lure because you feel that you've mastered one? Do you feel that you're getting bored with maybe what is there anything behind that?
I don't think I'm necessarily getting bored with it. It's just I want to try something new that just seems neat. I think there's some styles out there I probably won't ever basically try. Probably like Carolina rig. I have no interest in trying to get that any kind of chance or drop shotting.
Yeah.
I don't know why they
Really?
just finesse fishing drives me insane. I pound my head against the wall.
Well, jigs can be kind
Jigs
of a
can
finesse.
be pretty finessey. I will say that, but
If you can fish a jig, I can't imagine a Carolina rig.
Carolina and drop shot being too much different.
Not much. I mean,
Yeah.
but he's got this jig thing down. He's been on this jig bite for a couple years now, and he puts them in the boat.
I don't think the jig's gonna go away either.
A jig's a staple, man. I love fishing a jig.
Mm-hmm.
I love fishing a jig.
But yeah, the Bone Creek thing was fun, and the Naked guys are a great group to fish with. There's a lot of fun people there, and yeah, it was a crazy day on that one with that spinnerbait bite, and did pull in a 20 and a quarter and a 19 and 3/4 and an 18, and it was just an amazing day of fishing. And I hadn't heard anything about Richie McMichael, and I bested him that day.
Yeah.
That day I got him.
I think you've got him a couple times since then, but yeah, that's brings up another topic. So I don't know if we've even mentioned this yet, but so Marco has won Angler of the Year. This is his third time. We may have mentioned that. So he has won this Angler of the Year trophy 3 times. Every other year, he won it in 16. He won it in 18, and then again last year in 2020. So 2016 was our first tournament season. Then we had Richie McMichael come down from the Northeast Kansas group, and he actually fished both tournaments and won Angler of the Year in both clubs. Very impressive deal. And we've seen him kind of move on and compete in more of a national level, and he's doing very well. He's definitely a Midwest hammer, so shout out to Richie if you're watching this. If you want to do this show, man, hit me up. I'm ready. And I'm sure a lot of you guys would love to see that as well.
Yeah.
Marco said he watched the last one, so that's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
this is some stuff that we can really nerd out on. I feel like just picking little pieces from each other and learning.
Yeah.
So 17, Richie, and then 18, Marco came back and won it. And then we had Jay, who was fairly new to the group, and he came in 2019, and he took the trophy for Angler of the Year. And then he did very well in 2020 and was within 1 point of basically doing the same thing that Richie did and winning Angler of the Year in Flint Hills, the Flint Hills Kayak Anglers, and our group, Air Capital. So, but Marco came away with the win. So let's see, maybe next year, maybe you can come away with an odd year.
Yeah. 2 years in a row would be all right.
2 years in a row.
I wouldn't mind 2 years in a row. I can't seem to get that 2 year in a row thing. And the thing that is awesome about that is there's always somebody nipping at your heels there too. Because Kyle, what was his last name? Kyle Howell.
Yeah.
Our first year was. Me and him were back and forth that whole first season.
Yep.
And I just barely squeaked past him in that last.
Speaking of crankbaits, he's a crankbait guy. I think he fished crankbaits a majority of the time.
He loves his crankbaits. He makes some nice crankbaits.
Yeah.
And then Richie. I don't know how close I was with Richie.
I don't know. That'd be interesting. I'm sure
one.
we could pull up the stats and throw it up on the screen. I'm sure we could. If I can, I will. But
and then Jay came in, like I said, last year in a big way and just throttled us.
Yeah.
And last year, I will admit, I kind of snaked it from him that last year. And he, if he would have shown up to that last tournament, he would have got Angler of the Year, I am sure. And so he was out fishing a big tournament down in Alabama. So I got lucky on that.
Yeah, I think if he would have
passed it.
I think if he would have placed in the top 5 or something.
Yeah, he would have.
He would have had it.
If I wouldn't have gotten first at that tournament, he still would have beat me. So I barely squeaked it past him. So it is neat that there's always.
Is that part of it? So earlier when I was saying what keeps you coming back, is that part of it at all? You're not the most competitive. I don't. When I look at you, I don't think of competitive. I think you're just doing this stuff for fun, and you just win or you don't.
And I'm glad it pursues that way because it is exactly that way.
Yeah.
I do love the fishing and it's fun, and the competitive side of it, I don't really get into it too hard. If I win, I win. If I don't, It's not that big of a deal to me. It's much more just the fun aspect of it for me, and just loving to get out there and do it. And I do. I get pretty lucky and catch some pretty decent fish and win some here and there, and it's nice.
Well, and that's why we're here. I truly believe that it has nothing to do with luck. I truly believe that there is something behind the reel, right? There's something that you're doing that I'm not doing, right? There's something that it could be a presentation, it could be, it could be a number of things, preparation, it could be, I honestly, and I don't even think it's baits. I really don't even think it's baits. I think that, there are several ways to catch that same fish. Like you could go catch that fish with a jig, and I might be able to follow it up and, catch that same fish with like a spinnerbait or something. So I think there's more to it. Like I said, humble dude. He's just in it to have fun, and he wins, and that makes it even cooler and more inspiring. So yeah, 3-time AOY. He doesn't really care about all that. I had to twist his arm to get him to bring these trophies here, so he doesn't want to gloat. And he's got a pretty cool one back there if you can see it. Shout out to Eddie Limezine. He made this one, and he made that one back there, and he did that for the club. And
miss you, Eddie. You should come back.
Yeah, you should fish
with us.
Yeah, we like you.
Yeah.
So that's another cool story too. I met Eddie on the water. He's on a canoe at the time, and he caught like a 20-pound bag the day I met him, and I watched him, catch a couple 5-pounders right in front of me in a canoe. He was car topping a canoe on his hatchback sod. Like, there is something wrong with us. Like, we get this, itch so bad that we'll do stupid things like that, just so we can get out there on the water.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so sorry, I'm just rambling on, and that's what this is all about. Hopefully you guys don't mind. So let's go to what is your favorite style of fishing, and then we can kind of work that over into baits and presentations and, kind of however you want to go with that.
Well, I absolutely love the frog fishing and the blow ups. Everybody loves topwater. It's just exciting. It gets your blood pumping for sure. And I neglected the frog last year bad. I didn't catch near as many fish as I'd like to on it. I'm definitely going to try and pick it up a lot more this year. And but it's hard to beat the frog. But if I had to push the frog out with something, then it'd have to be the jig. I love jig fishing, flipping jigs, and the nastier the pile up of wood I can find is what I target and go for. And I love fishing wood. It's definitely it's kind of tough sometimes, and it can be heartbreaking because you can lose quite a few fish fishing in some thick stuff like that. But I really like tossing a jig in there and just beating it against a log over and over and over, and then jumping it to the next log, and you can just keep your bait in one spot for, as long as you want, really. You can sit there and beat that log for the whole day, and I like keeping it in that area. And but the thicker the wood, the better. That's definitely my top and favorite. And like I said, it changes from year to year. I'll pick up a different style, and I'll just pound that style into the ground. And because I used to love spinners, spinner baits was my big thing. But I've kind of moved on from the spinner and replaced it with more of the underspins and the chatterbaits more than the spinners, which is also one that I love. Those are my 3 staples, I would say, is the frog, the jig with a craw trailer, and the underspin are probably the 3 that I've got tied on pretty much all the time.
More so underspin than chatterbait?
Are
they pretty close?
They're pretty close.
Do you have one of each tied on, or I guess you're probably throwing a different rod?
Usually, I'll have a chatterbait and an underspin tied on. Well, no, I'll take that back. Usually, the swim jig is tied on,
okay,
and then the underspin or the chatterbait.
Where are you throwing the swim jig? So I got a few questions about the jig.
Yeah.
Are you flipping and pitching? Are you doing some casting mixed in?
With the flipping jig, I straight into the wood and just beating the hell out of that.
Yeah.
And then I'll pick up the swim jig if there's grass.
Okay.
If there's grass around, that's when I use the swim jig, is in grass like a big hill. the swim jig is always tied on.
So
at big
flipping
hill.
the jig into heavy cover, or you're casting and retrieving in vegetation.
Yeah, that's when the swim jig comes into play big
And
time.
then so more open water situations for the underspins.
For the underspins and the chatterbaits is more of the open water situation. I know a lot of guys fish the chatterbaits through the grass. I think you got to do too much ripping, which also attracts the bass sometimes.
Yeah.
It gets a reaction strike, but I get a little annoyed with trying to keep the grass off a chatterbait.
Well, it's interesting you say you're not a finesse guy, but it's like the underspin's almost a finesse version of the chatterbait in some ways.
It is for sure.
You know,
and that's the open waters when I definitely throw the underspin. And if I'm just looking for any kind of bite to catch anything, if I want to try and catch some drum or catfish or anything, they'll eat that underspin. They will chomp that underspin. Drum love that underspin.
Do they?
Yeah, I catch a bunch of drum that day at Chase.
That's what it was.
I think I've caught more drum at Chase than I've caught bass.
You see, he catches drum on one lure. I can catch drum on any lure. I'm that skilled. That tubes, jigs, crankbaits, chatterbait. I mean, I've caught a drum on every lure in my tackle box. 2020 was year of the drum for me. They give me crap about it at work, so they do. It's sad, really. You should pray for me.
Drum.
So that kind of gives us, and then something else too. Like, I know a lot about Marco, so I'm gonna try to dive a little bit, deeper into some of these things. So, like when you're trying out a new bait, because I feel like I was there for when the whole jig thing happened, because you weren't fishing jigs when I met you, and I feel like you were working on your craft in your comfort zone, which is creek fishing.
Yeah.
Explain. Like, is that where you test your new lures? Like, or did that just happen that way? Do you build confidence?
The creek is definitely a place where I go to build confidence with pretty much any lure.
Yeah.
And I do love the creek fishing. I like the narrow water. I like the change of scenery as you go around the river bend. And you're like lake fishing, pond fishing, and all that it's fun. You can find a lot of fish but the scenery doesn't seem to change a whole lot. It's all right there in front of you. It's all open, and the creek the scenery change is exciting and fun and keeps things interesting, and also just the narrowness of the water. You can't go hide over there because it's not there. It's just you're trapped in this little area, which maybe is kind of a cheap way to do it, but I just really enjoy it. It's an exciting time, and that's where the log jams really happen. Because also I don't use electronics, so I can't find those piles down in the bottom and underwater whatnot structure. I'll find it every now and then, just getting lucky tossing something somewhere and feeling it. But the rivers are where the log jams really build up and get nasty and thick. And like I said, I love that kind of fishing. It's fun. And the jig is where I definitely, in creeks and rivers, is where I really picked it up and started using it a lot.
Okay, so not really. You don't really do that intentionally. It just kind of, when he started fishing the jig, that creek. If you're gonna go fish a creek, pitch a jig into some heavy cover. That's definitely a place to catch fish. And Marco's taken me along on some of his creek fishing trips. He doesn't let me catch as many fish as he catches, but that's okay. We have fun back there. He's put his dad on some pretty good creek fish. I think his dad's kicked his butt one time out there at El Dorado.
He did. He snuck $500 away from me out there. He snuck $500. But I will say that was. I'm glad it ended that way.
Yeah.
He could have given me half the money. It would have been nice, but I feel like I kind of took on a guided tour. And but that was a fun one there at El Dorado because
we'll be there again this year.
Yeah.
Fall time, September.
I don't know how much I want to talk about this then. There's a certain creek though that I like to fish out there, and me and my dad fished that tournament, and it was posted online on Tourney X, and me and Dad went back and forth all day. We didn't know it actually that we were going back and forth all day because we weren't paying attention. We were just catching fish left and right, and it was so fun. And I knew we were close and I'm pretty sure that I knew that I had him by just a smidge. And we were coming back to ending the day. At the very end of the day, I mean, we could see our cars from where we were fishing. And there was this one nice stump, just a big old solid stump that would have had a hell of a root system. And I'm just tossing my jig at it like no other. I fished that thing hard, that little stump. And my dad comes up behind me, and he has his little spinner that has a crawdad on it.
Spinner craw.
His old
That's
spinner
where he
craw.
got the nickname.
His old spinner craw that he tossed in there and whacked this huge 19 and a half, his biggest to date still his PB, and whacked this big old 19 and a half, and yeah, he
Sealed the
snaked
deal.
it past me. Yeah, took that money away from me. But it was awesome to see him catch that one. He was pumped. He was happy. It was a good time.
That's a cool.
Great day.
That's a cool story too. So you'll hear us call Manuel Spinner Craw, and it's because he found this spinner bait with a craw, like a rage craw trailer or something on it, on the bank somewhere along this creek, and he decided to tie it on and fish it. And I think he caught a majority of his fish on it that day, and as Marco said, the biggest one of the day. So yeah. Spinner craw. I don't know how many of you guys have thrown a craw trailer on a spinner bait. I probably never will, but it can be done.
It can be done.
Can
It
be
catches
done.
fish apparently.
So,
He still does it. He still uses it.
he earned that nickname for sure. So favorite styles of fishing kind of come down to a few key baits. So none of these are really what I would consider a power fishing technique. I mean, a swim jig, maybe a chatterbait, I guess, would fall under that category, but a swim jig is more finessey of a, moving bait presentation. The underspin, kind of the same deal, but I guess that's a little bit more of a, I don't know if you'd consider that power anyways, but you're on the slower side of things, right?
Quite a bit.
I guess I don't know how to even quantify that, because you started out this show by saying
that
you're
I'm
not a
big
finesse guy,
fish.
but then you're fishing all the, the jig and all these things. So, but yeah, you're not doing the drop shot, you're not doing the Ned rig, you're not going that crazy, but you're just kind of in somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
Maybe it's all the knot tying that goes into the Carolina and drop shot and stuff that goes on. That, and also I use nothing but straight braid on everything. I know it's
and only bait
weird.
casters too, right?
Yeah, bait casters. Just bait casters. I don't have any.
Doesn't have a spinning
Don't have any
reel.
spinning rod setups, which I should go ahead and try and get into that. But
Straight braid. What pound test are we talking?
yeah, straight braid, and I use 40 pound for my jigs and heavy stuff and frogs.
Yeah.
I use 40, and I buy usually 10 for everything else.
We do fish a lot of dirty water, but I will say, like, Lions is one
Yeah.
that is pretty clear.
Pretty clear.
What are some other? There's not many. Wilson is
Wilson's
going to
a
be
clear
real
one.
clear, but you're fishing braid there
Yeah.
as well.
I fish braid everywhere.
So for you guys that
That's all I
are
do.
kind of looking for some tackle advice, and talking about line size and all this stuff, I mean, this is a guy who consistently catches big fish, and he's not running any fluorocarbon leaders on
Yeah.
his stuff. I do, but I don't catch them, so maybe I need to just go to the Marco.
But they talk
setup.
about, you might feel like you're doing something wrong or not doing something right, but it's just whatever makes you feel comfortable, And I feel comfortable throwing braid, and
It's more
I
of a
have a lot less backlashes.
Because
it's
of
easy
it?
to, maybe it's just because I haven't used the fluorocarbon, but every time I've tried to, I backlash the hell out of it. And it
straight
just seems-
fluorocarbon. Or,
Mhm.
yeah.
And I just feel like I don't have any problems with casting braid at all. I very rarely, I don't know the last time I broke off a fish. It just doesn't happen. And
Sure. Yeah. No, it doesn't. Not with
no,
straight
it doesn't
braid.
happen with braid unless you really don't retie after fishing
Yeah.
some really gnarly stuff. But yeah, it's all preference. Really.
That's cool.
and
Yeah, confidence. Yeah,
Mhm,
it's a
and what you're
confidence
using.
thing. So maybe if we were fishing like 6 foot, visibility and stuff often, maybe you'd switch that up. But
Yeah,
we
possibly.
go out to Wilson and it's, I mean, there's been times where we're out there and it's got 6 foot of visibility.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty clear out there. But so yeah, for you guys that are wondering, how much of a difference that really makes. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if Marco used a fluorocarbon leader, he'd catch more fish. I don't know.
Possibly.
Maybe. But he doesn't feel that way. He's pretty confident in the
My
line
braid.
he's throwing. Yeah. Okay, so that kind of gives us a dive into um, the way you like to fish. How do you, this is number three, how do you like to prepare for a tournament? You know, what goes into that? We had Jacob tell us about some of his organization, even, you know, the night before stuff, if you're looking at the map, all that stuff.
Getting ready for a tournament, I don't do a whole lot because most of the lakes we fish, I know decently, but I will get on and look at the weather and the winds and which direction and figure out which shorelines I would like to fish and that kind of stuff. Map study is the other thing that I'll do quite a bit, but uh,
What do you use for map study?
I just use whatever's on the iPhone. Google, is it Google Maps?
Apple Maps, I
Apple
think, is
Maps.
what Jacob said he
What it
uses
is.
too.
Okay, yeah. I just use that. And
For just kind of checking out shoreline. So you're not
Mhm.
looking at contours or drop offs or anything
not a
like
whole
that.
lot.
Some
I
of the
would like to do more
navionics,
of
did
that.
you ever mess with that?
Mm-mm,
No.
no. I've just strictly just stuck with my
Yep.
phone map.
Cool.
And then the night before, I don't do a whole lot of prep or anything. I usually wait till the next day, the next morning, well, when we get to the boat ramp and whatnot, to tie on whatever lures I'm going to be using that day. And, you know, kind of try and check water clarity a little bit, but usually
Yeah, it's hard to
a
do.
little dark, yeah.
Yeah, when it's
A little
dark.
dark to be able to tell. But usually just tie on whatever lures I want that next day and get ready to fish. And usually try and get a decent amount of sleep the night before. I like to I like to stay at home and wake up early and drive there rather than camp. I can't seem to camp and sleep worth nothing. So I like to stay in my own bed and wake up early and drive the next morning.
Does
But,
that feel like a little ritual in and of itself? You
yeah,
know, like the
yeah.
getting up early, it's kind of exciting, like
Mhm.
tournament day,
Yeah,
3 o'clock.
sometimes it's
Like
hard
those
to
are the
sleep.
days you don't have trouble waking up.
Yeah,
You know,
not
it's
at
like
all.
you hear your alarm and you're like ready to
Yeah,
go.
yeah, and but yeah, then getting to ride with my dad to tournaments, hang out with him. It's
Mhm.
fun.
Yep. So, yeah, as you guys have heard him mention his dad several times, you know, he's been fishing with us almost just as long. Did he start fishing with us the very first year or
No,
he took a
I think
year,
I think he started second year.
the second year, and
I
he
do
got
believe.
into it
Yeah.
and has been to several events each year, you know,
Yeah,
and it's pretty cool to watch those two.
yeah. He tries to make it to everyone he can. He's enjoying it. He never really liked fishing too much. He was never really into it, and like I said, growing up, he didn't take us a whole lot because yeah, he just never really enjoyed it. But ever since I bought him his first kayak, I bought him his first one for Valentine's Day, which was the same thing, a little 10-foot Pelican, just like mine, and he got out there with me in the little Pelicans and hung out with me fishing, and he I know he enjoyed it just to spend time with me, but it really grew on him, and he really started to get into it and really enjoying the fishing and kayaking of it aspect of it, and he's really looking forward to jumping in the Hobie this year and getting out there again.
You're outdoorsy people, you know, your brothers, and you know they seem to all be. You got the fly fisherman, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know the bow hunter,
They
and
do
you
love
know,
bow hunting.
so I mean they're outdoorsy people, but it's kind of cool. And when I heard you talking about your crawdad stories and stuff like that, like I can totally relate. I was not into fishing as a kid. Like my dad just wasn't into that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, his dad was. My grandpa was a big hunter, a big fisherman, and I think like my dad got burnt out on it. You know, as a kid having to tag along, and so we didn't do a whole lot of that. Um, we didn't do a whole lot of that growing up, so it's kind of cool, you know, to hear some of the. I can relate on some of that stuff, but it's really cool to see Marco teaching his dad how to fish. Like I feel like you right,
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
taught him how to fish. So
He's learned quite a bit online on his own.
yeah, but it's actually the opposite of what you would think, you know.
Yeah,
So basically, when you're preparing for a tournament, you're not putting a whole lot of time into the night before. Um, you're really just kind of preparing for the conditions, checking the wind, checking the rain, checking, you know, where you think that. So wind is going to be pushing bait up onto the bank type of thing where you want to be flipping into or,
yeah.
you know, running your
Yeah.
chatterbaits or your. So you're primarily a bank fisherman?
Pretty much. Like I said, I don't run electronics, so it's kind of rough to do the offshore stuff. And going back to just doing it for fun, really, not taking it too serious. So that kind of don't do a whole lot of prep because of that, and
But could be helpful. I mean, some
oh
guys
yeah,
just drive themselves crazy trying to prepare for a tournament. I would
yeah,
imagine.
probably.
Like, okay, I got to have the right bait, and it's gonna be, the wind's coming from the northeast, so I got to, it's like
Mm-hmm.
you put too much of that into it, and you just might just go crazy.
Yeah.
So
We didn't
in
lose it again, did we?
no,
No, no.
so then the morning of, you'll tie on your lures. You're probably already gonna have the stuff that you are primarily fishing. It sounds like you're pretty much dialed in on 4 or 5 baits.
Pretty much. My meat
So
and
you're probably
potatoes.
already going to have stuff tied on. Maybe you're going to change out colors or something like that.
Yeah.
So you'll kind of just do all that kind of the morning of.
Yeah, yeah. Not a whole lot of tackle prep. Like Jacob's idea that he talked about in your guys' podcast is, I enjoyed what his
That
technique
was
was.
pretty
and
lengthy. I mean,
laying
he was
some stuff out. Yeah.
he went in on
He's into it for sure.
on that.
And but yeah, I like some of the stuff that he brought up in his talk there. That I might give a whirl this year with, as far as, because I also feel like I don't change lures enough sometimes, and I think I should have more, just narrow down and have it up in front with me of what I need. As I kind of like that idea, and hope maybe that would help me change lures more when I need to, because I do think I have struggled with that a bit.
Just
of
have
letting
it
know.
there ready for you. Yeah, just the idea of losing 2 minutes tying on a lure sometimes. Like, sometimes I get that in my head and I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't have time to change lures.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like, it's going to take you 2 minutes to tie a new lure on. But so yeah, I think that, and that's what this whole thing's about. Like, you can take things from Jacob, and then Jacob's probably going to take some things from you. Like, man, maybe I need to tone it down a little bit, And so I think that's why this is really cool, is we can just kind of get, I hate to be
Ideas.
cliche, get behind the reel. Like, I want to find out what's making you tick and why you're doing the things that you're doing. So that kind of gives you guys an idea of how he prepares for a tournament. He really doesn't a whole lot. I mean,
Not a whole lot.
and there's something to that, right? And maybe there's something to that for his personality type or his style, right? So it may not fit everybody, but definitely worth taking into consideration. So number 4 is, how has technology changed your approach?
That one is, I mean, that's not, I don't really have a whole lot with the technology.
Yeah.
Because, like I was saying, I use my phone to look at maps. But other than that, I don't, like I said, I do not run electronics. I've bought fish finders, and I had one on my Jackson Cuda for, I don't even know if I used it for a full year necessarily. And even when I did have it on my boat, and I don't even know if I really turned it on and ran it that much. And really, even when I did, I don't even think I paid attention to it very much.
I think I bought one from you.
Yeah. I think you bought the first one that I had, and then I bought another one after that, which I never installed on my boat. I never used it. I actually gave that one to my dad, and it's the one that he uses now. And but I've never gotten into electronics. Maybe it's laziness because I don't want to learn how to use it. But and just I like I was saying, one of the main reasons I do it and fish is just to get out there and be with nature and enjoy the nature. And I feel like a fish finder takes a lot of that away, and maybe it wouldn't, but then it wouldn't seem like it'd be very important, because I don't want to just stare at a screen while I'm out there on the water fishing. I want to enjoy what's around me and all that kind of stuff. And the fish finder, it feels like it would take away a lot of that. But
Sure.
and the other aspect, it would be nice to be able to go offshore and find some stuff down low and be able to fish it and see fish and catch them. But at this point, I don't see the need for it. And
So you're saying technology really hasn't changed anything about your approach to fishing
no,
at all?
if anything, I got rid of electronics.
Yeah, I
'cause-
noticed that, because he used to have one on the boat and now he doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to think of how technology has changed. So the fact that everybody else has electronics, does that keep people off of your, your bank stuff to some degree? I mean, you still see people fish it, but
Yeah.
do you think that maybe that opens up more cover for you to flip into?
Possibly.
I don't know. I'm just trying to.
People out
I'm
deep.
spitballing here.
And it definitely could.
He does have some technology that he's not telling you about, and that is the Hobie 180 Mirage Drive
Oh, yeah.
with kick-up fins. I mean, if that's not technology, I don't know what
It's true.
is.
That thing's...
I mean, that thing has been engineered to the T. Like
Yeah.
that whole boat, that whole Outback platform, is just impressive. As you guys may or may not know, I sell Hobie kayaks at Russell Marine Products. And when I'm showing people these kayaks, the Outback, to me, that's what I fish in as well. It just stands out because of all the features that it has that even the Pro Angler doesn't have. The Pro Angler has some more stability, it has more deck space, and it has horizontal rod storage. There's a little bit more storage in the hatch up front. But for a guy like my size, and I don't need all that extra stability. I feel like with all the track systems and the gears and the integrated tackle holders and just like all of the things that he probably doesn't use because he's not running the fish finder, like the Guardian transducer shield, like all these things that are built into this kayak. I mean, any upgrades you want to do are just there already, just plug and play.
And yeah, I've been really impressed with that kayak, the Outback. I'm
The
really
seat.
happy with it. Yeah, the seat's super nice. And yeah, all the storage on it is great. I love all the little pockets and slots and the rectangle storage right in front of you. And I like it, the layout
What do
of
you
it
fill
and
that
everything
thing
more
with?
than the Cuda. Actually, in the front of me, right in front of me, all I filled out with is just food and my phone,
Okay.
pretty much, and my keys and stuff. I keep the important stuff that I really want to keep dry, and if I do tip, the stuff that I really want to keep, like my keys and
What do you
phone.
put up in the front hatch?
In the front hatch, is usually where I keep the plug, the pedal plug, if you take the pedals out.
Yep.
And then I also keep I did keep a bar, a long metal bar, for if I did run into stumps and bend my kick fins, then I'd be able to pull them out and have a lot of leverage to try and straighten that thing out. Because the first time I did that and tried and straightened it with just what was there, it was tough. It was tough to get it straightened back out to where I could use it again.
Are you having that issue
And,
with the kick-up fins?
I haven't gotten to use the kick-up fins on the water because I just bought that. Because I bought the Outback as soon as they changed the body style. Because I'd been holding out.
Well, you got kick-up, right? You had kick-up?
No, no.
You didn't have kick-up or 180?
I
Or you
had
had
180,
kick-up, or you had 180 but not
but not
kick-up?
kick-up.
Sorry,
'Cause
I
I
should've
bought
known
because I'd been holding out and waiting to buy a pedal kayak.
Yeah.
Just because I had the money and everything, and I was just waiting for something that would.
Yeah, he wanted all from us.
Yeah.
He stole all of our money by winning these tournaments, and then he
Save
bought
up.
it. So I helped Marco buy a new kayak.
Yeah,
Is what
yeah.
what happened.
A lot of you did. A lot of you did.
Thank you guys.
But
make sure to fish with us again this year so we can get some more stuff.
I need to upgrade. But yeah, as soon as that Outback new body style came out, it just blew me away. I was like, that's impressive. That's what I want. So I went out and I bought it, and then sure enough, they kicked me in the face.
Couple months later.
Next year, they're like, okay, now we're gonna put these sweet kick-up fins on it,
Yeah,
and
they're pretty sweet.
I was pretty pissed.
He was
really.
mad. He was
I was
angry.
pretty pissed. I was like, why? Which is good marketing. Way to go, Hobie. Nice.
Good
Makes
job.
buy a whole new kayak just
Still
to get the
can't
kick-up fins.
Still can't buy those drives.
Yeah.
You still can't buy them.
Because I was waiting. I was like, well, can I just buy the drive? And obviously you can't because they want you to buy the whole kayak again.
Yeah.
But
They were supposed to last year. This is what they told me. They were supposed to start selling them in the spring of 2020,
oh yeah.
and then COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And supposedly that had something to do with it. And so I don't know if they've just completely gone away from that idea
Yeah.
altogether. I think at some point they'll sell them, but
Yeah. But then a few months back, Trevor
Johnson.
Johnson put his 2020
I think so.
Outback up for sale, which has the kick-up fins. And my dad's been looking at the pedal kayaks, and I'd been wanting to get him one so I don't have to tow him around. And so and he put that up for sale, and I price was nice, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go buy that, and I took the fins off of that, which I'm gonna be using this year, and my dad will be on the Hobie with my old fins, so that's exciting, and I'm pumped for that. And
Heck yeah.
that is definitely technology.
So yeah.
And my fishing reels, the DCs.
Oh, dude, yeah. Tell us
DCs
about
are
that.
better
Like,
technology.
what do you? I've never fished with one.
The DCs they're pretty neat. I didn't have a whole lot of problem with backlashing before, but I can really zing the DC without having to worry like at all. And it's
Windy
super,
conditions,
super nice.
like
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, windy, crashing into winds, not an issue at all. And skipping hasn't been an issue with it at all.
I didn't think about that.
And I've really enjoyed the DC and just the smoothness of it, and really been impressed with Shimano so far.
Mm-hmm.
I can't complain about theirs at all. The Luz, I've had a bit of trouble with a couple of them, and they're still quote great reels, and it's probably my own fault for messing them up. But a couple of Luz have been screwing up on me, and the Exos, the Quantum Exos, I think they're just getting old. That's their issue.
I've got some Shimanos, but I've got the Curado, I've got the SLX XT,
Yeah.
and then recently I picked up a 2 or 3, I think 2, just the regular SLX, which is like kind of the step down from the XT, and so they're kind of more budget friendly. You know, the Curado's like the most expensive reel that I own, the Curado K. And I love them. The SLX XTs I feel like are a great budget-friendly model. I don't really notice a difference between the XT and the Curado as far as rigidity.
Yeah.
You know, like they're both are just, they feel the same way in
Solid.
your hand. They're both super smooth. I'm sure there's some specs that differentiate them too. But the SLX, like the original SLX, that one feels a little bit cheaper, but hasn't caused me any issues so far. But yeah, Shimano makes good stuff.
Yeah.
One of these days I'm gonna end up with the DC for sure.
Yeah.
So you have some technology. You just, instead of putting it into electronics, you know, you've put your money into technology other places that suit your style of fishing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it. Okay, so number 5, and we're going kind of slow here, but that's all right. We're gonna cover all of the bases. And I have a lot of questions because I've known Marco for a long time, so hopefully you guys appreciate the thoroughness of this interview. What kind of cover, and this is stuff that we kind of touched on already, but what kind of cover and structure do you target most frequently?
The wood, definitely the wood. And if I can't find the wood, then lily pads. Lily pads is my next favorite to fish. I really like pads. They're exciting. A lot of the top water happens there, and then beyond wood and that, I mean, obviously grass. I'm not a huge fan of fishing rock.
Really?
I don't really enjoy fishing dams.
No more crankbaits, basically.
No, I haven't fished crankbaits.
Because that's kind of
Very
where I
much.
like to fish the crankbaits is
Yeah,
on.
it's rock.
Yeah.
Rock is where I should start fishing and throwing cranks, because that's where I got my start. But
Yeah.
I don't really enjoy fishing rocks, probably because of the braid. Is one of the reasons.
Mhm.
Getting tears up my line, and then I start losing lures and getting frustrated. And then just deepness of the rock usually, because rocks. are
You like
usually on the
fishing
steep
pretty
banks.
shallow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Under 10 foot, under 8 foot. I mean,
usually under 10.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Do you ever find any like 10-foot like brush piles that you fish?
I've found some before, and
Just kind of by accident, maybe that extend
yeah.
out further than you thought.
Yeah, just casts randomly out
As
into
as
nothing.
you're retrieving back, you're like, oh
Yeah.
wow, there's still something down there.
There's some wood. And I have found a few that way, and I'll fish them, and I've caught some decent fish out of some deep laydowns, but it would be much easier with electronics to find them. But yeah, wood's definitely my favorite, and I really hope lily pads come back next year or this year, this season, wherever they went, and I hope they're at all the lakes they've should be at. 'Cause
Yeah.
I really missed them last year.
Yeah, that was frustrating for sure.
I didn't understand that. It just blew my mind. because I heard about the kingman getting sprayed and maybe
Mhm.
that killed them off, but then the other lakes, it's like why didn't the other lakes have the pads come through? It baffled me, but hopefully this year get back on that.
Yeah, I hope
On
so,
that bite.
for sure. That way, Marco can kick my butt with some frog fishing this year. So I'd be okay if the pads stay away. No, I'm just kidding. I'd still want to catch some of those. There's no funner way. That's not a word, I don't think, but there's no more exciting way to catch a fish. It's like what I tell people, and it's the same thing with fishing into heavy cover, like pitching and flipping. I feel like those are two very similar bites.
Yeah.
It's like getting in a fist fight. It's like up close, it's personal, and it's not, cranking in, 20 foot of water. It's not, it's like
Right
that
there.
fish is, when he hits that bait, it's because you're in his zone,
Mm-hmm.
and this is his area, and it's on.
Yeah.
Those fish don't just, they're not like, even if they're smaller, they're not like reeling in a limp noodle. I mean, that's, right? Am I right?
Yeah, they got the energy.
I mean, they're just like, boom,
Right
get
there.
out of here.
Yeah.
This is my area.
Uh-huh.
It's not I'm hungry. It's not, I don't feel like that's what it is at all.
Yeah.
When you're ticking that piece of wood 10
Mhm.
times in a row and he finally hits, it's because
You got
he's
mad.
tired of your crap.
You got him mad.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, same thing with frogging, I feel like.
Oh,
Same thing with
so much
frogging.
fun.
I know, I'm depressing you.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you try to set yourself apart from other anglers with your baits or presentations?
Mm,
And maybe you don't do it. Maybe you don't do it consciously, but when you're thinking about the lure, is there something different that you do? Is there some sort of like modifications that you do that you're trying to make sure, hey, I know the fish have seen 100 different jigs. What's going to be different about my jig or my underspin or my chatterbait?
I don't think
Do you do anything different?
I can't think of
Do
anything.
you use any
that
weird
I've-
trailers? Do you dip them in chartreuse? Do you you know what I mean? Anything?
I don't do any dyes and dipping because I can't stand the smell of garlic. Like that's not to diss on biz baits. I like using their plastics and everything, but I do not like the garlic smell.
They
I
smell
just-
like garlic. If
they
you don't like garlic,
hardcore.
you're not gonna like biz baits
Like,
because
yeah.
they stink.
Yeah, they do. They got some hardcore. Because I mean, I'll be driving home from fishing, and I'll just have one hooked onto my lure or whatever in the back of the car. It's just like, oh god, it stinks, and it drives me nuts. So I don't get into the dyes and stuff and
That's
the
fun.
scents too much.
Yeah.
And I really don't modify anything too much. I might trim a skirt on a jig,
Sure.
show a little bit more kick and the trailers and whatnot.
So
And,
you'll trim the skirt. What about the weed guard?
It seems like
Do you have
I leave the weed guard alone.
You leave it all the way
Mhm.
alone. I've been
'Cause,
watching
yeah.
some stuff, and I went and trimmed up a bunch of my weed guards, just for better like hookup ratios. I guess is the idea behind it.
Yeah.
I guess I understand that I'm probably setting myself up to lose a few more lures as well.
Took it into wood and
Yeah.
whatnot, maybe.
Yeah.
It could
But
happen. But
I'm gonna try it. I don't have a verdict yet.
Yeah.
I'll probably catch some drum on them.
And the jigs I use, they're the Eco Pro.
Yep.
Eco Pro tungsten flipping jig.
Do you like
And,
the? Do you notice the tungsten versus the lead difference?
I think so. I think you do.
I mean, you're
feel
running
the
straight braid. You're running tungsten.
tungsten. You feel.
mean,
you
you're-
feel everything.
That's awesome.
I do feel. I can usually tell what kind of bottom I'm working with,
Yeah.
and feeling everything and every little bump and whatnot, and but those jigs I've really enjoyed them. But like I said, I don't modify them too much, and I can't think of any modifications I really make to anything.
Well,
really.
hey, that's
use pretty
that's-
much the straightforward what they send.
yeah, that's I mean that's cool. That's the stuff that we want to know because, as I said before, like some guys will just drive themselves nuts with this. Jacob had a couple. I mean, he didn't have a whole lot of
Yeah.
mods, but
Mhm.
just using different, more obscure trailers and stuff like that. But there are some guys that really just take it to the next level.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for new people to understand that it's not always necessary too. Like you got a guy like Marco. Marco's very inspiring because as you guys are finding out, he's he's not doing much different than you guys are probably doing. You know what I mean? Even just starting out new, like he hasn't gotten too crazy with it. You know, over the years, he's still doing these. You know, he's beaten the bank. He's admitted that. I'm not knocking the guy. I do the same
Yeah.
thing. I'm not knocking the guy at all. But he's beaten the bank. He's using lures the way they are, straight out of the box. Um, he's targeting cover that you can see with your own eyes. I mean, but he's still kicking our butt. So
Pretty basic.
we still got to figure out. There's something different. He's doing something different here, and I just don't know what it is yet. So maybe I'll forget to ask him the question that you guys are thinking of right now. So drop that in the comment section, below. If you guys are just like, man, I think I know what it is. You know, how do you do this? But I can't think of anything right now. So, what is your go-to lure when fishing is tough? I think we kind of know that.
Fishing's tough is probably the underspin.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, the underspin seems to just catch anything and everything, and the underspin, it's one that I can cover a lot of water with, because when I am not catching anything and they don't seem to be holding to the wood that I like to find them on, then yeah, I'll usually pick up the underspin and start just fan casting everywhere, everything.
So that's your tough bite lure.
Yeah. That's usually my tough bite lure is the underspin.
So then,
just covering water. And
when you're in a situation where you're not catching them flipping, or you know these other styles that we've talked about, you'll go ahead and just like fan cast the area to kind of rule out that area as a whole.
Yeah.
So you're like in a pocket or something, and you're just not getting bites the more traditional Marco way. So you kind of just cover as much water as you can with this more like kind of a finesse moving bait presentation, and then at some point you're like, okay, I need to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then you'll look for so when you go to the next place, do you look for something different? Like, are you putting this much thought into it where you're saying, well, you know, this has a bunch of grass, or this doesn't have any grass, you know, or I need to, like, how do you do that?
Usually when the bite gets really tough and I'm going to try and find a new area, I'll usually try and find something completely different from what I've been fishing. And like if I'm fishing the wood, usually I'll go and try and find grass somewhere. The grass is usually my number two. And if the grass isn't producing, then that's when I'll really just start casting into just randomness, just out in the middle of nothing.
Still with
and
the
reeling.
Underspin.
Yeah, and reeling back towards shore, or just casting into the middle of nothing, and hopefully getting lucky and running into something or finding some cover somewhere that's offshore.
Just out of curiosity, because I don't know how often this happens. I know you've thrown some Hail Marys, or maybe even just stuck with the same approach. The one that's coming to mind is a Big Hill King of the Hill event. I think you ended up winning. Did you win it? And Air Capital won the trophy?
Yeah.
That was kind of like a shotgun deal, wasn't it? Where you won it at the very end of the day.
Yeah.
Go through that one. Actually, I think I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself on this question. This is take me back to a day on the water when your pattern didn't hold, but you found a way to put fish in the boat. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself. This is actually number 9, but that one just popped into my head.
Yeah.
Do you remember that day?
That day at King, Big Hill. That one started out really rough, and I was struggling, and like the wood pattern was not there. And
how do you target wood on Big Hill? You're not targeting trees like?
I'll throw at trees quite a bit.
Really?
Around the bases of them.
Deeper or more shallow stuff?
More of the shallow stuff. I'll stay.
Because there's a lot of deep
shallow
ones.
Yeah, there's a lot of deep trees out there on that one, and but yeah, that day it was not happening with the jig or the frog, and that's the underspin and the swim jig is what
Saved
really
the day?
came into play. That
Really?
the swim jig. I went and started finding the grass. The grass is what really saved me that day. Was I went and found some really good shorelines with some really nice grass, and there wasn't any trees around, nothing, and
something totally different.
And the swim jig just taking it right over the top of that grass, and they just started hammering it, and really just got lucky with the quality of fish I caught that day. I definitely did not hit the numbers.
Yeah.
But the fish I did catch were big.
Were they all
And
towards the end of the day, or a majority of them?
There was one that was towards the earlier in the day, and it was actually right by my dad. I ran into him, and me and him fished together for a little bit, and that's when I think it was my very first fish that day, actually. And it was a big old 18 and a half. And that got it started for me, and that's when I went and started hitting the grass. And actually, that's what got me fishing the grass. Was I saw my dad, and I was fishing with him. I was like, I'll go and say hi to him. And I'm not catching anything, so I'm just going chit chat with him for a minute. And so I pedaled on over there, and he was in some grass, and that's when that big old 18 hit. And I was like, all right. And I was like, all right, see you, Dad. I'm gonna go find some grass.
Heck yeah.
And then when I actually pulled out my map on my phone and looked at the map, and I looked at a shoreline that I thought would look like quite a bit of grass, and I went to it, and it was, and they were there in a big way.
Are you using?
It was fun.
Is the map showing you like that? Is it showing you the bank? Like, are you seeing a bunch of grass on the bank?
Yeah, and just off the bank.
Right.
Like usually there'll be a little, like 3 foot or not on the that look like it on the map. It looks like just a thin little strip, but it'll be usually a thin layer that is between the rocks and the grass, and then you'll just see dark green. Is what I saw that day.
Cool.
Just bright green along that shore.
So on that deal, it wasn't paying off your normal flipping stuff, and I think you wasted a good part of the day on that.
Yeah.
And so it took you a while, and you said, you know what, if I'm going to do anything at all today, if I'm going to turn in more than this one fish, I need to do something different.
Yeah, totally changed it up.
Put one fish in the boat, and then that was the confidence that you needed to dedicate your time to that piece of cover, that type of cover, not piece of cover, but that type, that grass.
Yeah, and that was the first time I'd really gotten into throwing a swim jig too.
Really?
Yeah.
That was a couple years ago, but sounds like you've been throwing that quite a bit over the last couple years since then. Okay, so number 8, so we're working our way backwards. How do you keep yourself grounded when things are not going your way?
I do. I have. It's pretty simple. I just enjoy being out there again, and I don't get too frustrated if I'm not catching fish. It might get to me a little, but for the most part, it doesn't bother me too much. Just out there having fun, and so it's pretty easy to stay grounded that way. If you just try not to take it too serious. But I know that can be hard for a lot of guys, and I am pretty competitive. And
are you more competitive with yourself?
Yeah, definitely. With
I noticed that about me. Like, I don't get too hard on myself. At this point, I know I'm not gonna win very many tournaments. I don't ever place very high, But so I in order to keep from, like getting really down on myself, I'm just competitive with myself, and I, just think of things that I can do to improve and things like that. So it sounds like, when you say you're competitive, it's not that you necessarily want to be better than the next person, but you want to be the best that you can be.
Yeah. And
but at the same time, like, I still enjoy myself out there on the water, you know, and I keep a pretty positive mindset up until, the time's over, to be fishing. I don't really count myself out until it's over. Like, if there's 30 minutes left, I could catch 5 fish in 30 minutes.
Oh yeah, that can happen.
I mean, and you've seen it happen.
Yeah.
You've been there and you've won tournaments because of keeping that type of mindset.
Yeah, and just trying to just enjoy what you're out there to do. Just have fun and fish, and it's not too hard for me to stay grounded.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and I think that just comes back to your personality and more so to do with the type of person you are. You're not going to get too down on yourself about it. You're not really in it for that anyways.
Yeah.
So, you're not investing your energy in winning. You're investing your energy in just going out and having a fun time. So, I like it. Okay, take me back. We did that. Okay, so what does fishing mean to you? We may have touched a little bit on that, but I have sat down and I have really put a lot of thought into, why I enjoy fishing. Um, I understand you like being in the outdoors, and it's just getting outside in nature, and obviously feeling that tug is almost an addiction at this point.
Yeah.
So it's something you may not even be able to help, but like, how can you relate fishing to other aspects of your life? Um, so like just kind of an example of that is, I have noticed that I do the best in more difficult situations when I'm like backed up against a wall in everyday life, So like
Yeah.
when the pressure's really on is when I tend to perform the best, So is that something that came from fishing or that I can use towards fishing? Just like any little correlation with your personality type, I don't know, maybe, hopefully you get where I'm going with this.
Read that one more time.
So what does fishing mean to you? How can you relate fishing to other aspects of your life?
Well, not real sure on that one.
So, like, does fishing make you a more patient individual? Or are you good at fishing because you're a patient individual? Because you can sit there and you can tick that same piece of wood 10 times in a row.
I'm actually pretty impatient in life.
Okay.
In life, I'm pretty impatient.
But on the water, it's different.
Yeah, on the water, it's pretty different.
I'm kind of the same way. Like at home,
I can stay focused.
I can get worked up over silly things, but then when I'm out on the water, everything can be going wrong, and I'm just like super level headed.
Mm-hmm.
So is that like your escape? Is that where you can? It's almost like where you belong, or
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
I would say so. It feels, life just feels right out on the water.
Yeah.
It just.
It's like an escape.
Yeah.
It's like nothing else exists. It's like me and the water.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing else really even matters. Like I could have so much, and I have, like, since I've started the club, I have had very um, troubling times, like financially and all this kind of stuff. Like we've ended up, like, Marco came and helped me out with some stuff one time when we were without we were without running water at one point, and I don't know if you even knew that, but we were without, like, running. But like I'll go out on the water and just like this huge weight was lifted off of my shoulders, like nothing else matters.
Yeah, and it's nice to just forget about all that stuff for a while. And I do a lot of fishing by myself.
Yeah,
I enjoy it.
I do too.
I enjoy it by myself a lot. Probably more than with going with people and stuff. And it's probably not the safest
Sure.
per se, but
Just that solitude,
just being out there alone, it's so nice.
getting away from the phone,
Yeah.
getting away from, because like I'll find myself stuck in my phone and on like Facebook and stuff. And it's just like after so much of that, you're just like, oh my god, I just feel exhausted.
It's so terrible how much I actually stare at that thing.
I know.
It's terrible.
And so like when I go out on the kayak, it's like I can just distance myself from the world.
Phone's done.
Yeah.
Unless I'm taking a picture
Unless
of a
I'm
fish.
taking a picture for
Then
for a
that
tournament,
phone's
or
getting put away.
maybe I caught that big, get that hero shot.
Yeah.
So okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, so fishing is just kind of an escape
Just
for
an
you.
escape, yeah.
And maybe you can dwell on some similarities between your style of fishing and the way you handle situations in real life. Like, I'd ask all you guys to kind of do the same thing. And
I will say that one way it has affected my life is I might not I love fishing by myself, but the camaraderie is great, and getting the hang out with people like you and the people I have met through fishing, it's great because I don't hang out with a whole lot of people. I don't think most of us do really.
Yeah, I mean, we're all
but-
adults, so it's like we have our own families, we have our work, we have very busy schedules, and it's like these tournaments were a way for me to just have an excuse to go fish.
Yeah.
Really is what this whole thing started as. And so yeah, we don't hang out with our friends a whole lot, you know. I mean, you know, you have these friends that you grew up with and that you would still call friends, but it's like you're almost friends from a distance. It seems like, at least, you know, in my situation. And so like my friends are really, you know, the guys that fish with us.
Kayak
And
fisherman.
okay. So this is a really cool question as well. So I was really excited. Here, I want to do this in this. I haven't done a single one in this.
I've been looking at it every time.
Okay, well, I'm retarded. Okay, so this is a really cool question I'm excited about hearing. When Marco told me that he actually watched the whole entire first episode, I was pretty pumped on it. So it's cool to hear that some of you guys are excited about the whole concept of this video. So the question I have here, this is number 11, this is my last question, is what is one thing you would like to know about your favorite angler or your biggest competition? So like, you know, if you have a favorite angler out there, or, you know, like your Richie McMichaels, or the guys that, you know, you kind of look up to, or what is the one question that you would like to know in this type of format? Like, what did I leave out? Or one of the questions that maybe I did ask.
About another angler?
Yes, about another angler.
Oh.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a specific person that you have in
Gotcha.
mind.
Oh. I mean, I've always
Stumped
had
him.
questions about electronics. It's something I've always had questions about.
So you
Yeah.
would want to get more of like a how does it work type of thing, or, you know,
Yeah,
how
probably.
do you use it?
Probably that. Probably the how to work kind of thing. But even if I did learn, like I said, I don't know if I'd really use it that much.
Sure.
Just because, like I said, I'll take away from what I enjoy about it, the being out there and whatnot. But yeah, electronics questions would be a big one for me, I would say.
So that would be the question that you would be interested in hearing more. So it sounds like you have like somewhat of an interest in that category.
Yeah.
But you're just not quite sure if you'll ever
Really
get into
dabble
it
in
yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. So, what is one thing you would like to know about your favorite angler or biggest competition? So, if you guys are thinking about this question, I want you to post your answer down below, because this is something, basically, this is going to open it up to another question on episodes in the future. You know, so if there was one thing that I would want to know about an angler, I guess this is a tougher question than I thought, but it would really probably pertain to how they're determining on bigger bodies of water, how they are determining productive areas. You know, like a pro in a bass boat, he's going to be able to cover a bunch of water, and he's going to have several different locations. But I would probably want to know myself, you know, when he's doing that map study, why is he picking this area? Is it because, you know, it's near a main lake, you know, channel or a point, or, you know, what are some different things? And that's going to change from year to, or from time of year. But I would probably want to know more so of a pre-fishing situation. Why is he even there in the first place? Why is he flipping into this brush pile that, yeah, if we saw it, we would have been flipping into it too, but we may not have ever even got there.
Yeah, that's a pretty good question too.
So that's probably what I would ask myself. But anyways, guys, this is Behind the Reel with Marco Munoz. I've had a really good time conversing with him, learning some new things about how he fishes, why he fishes the way he does. And this is definitely somebody that if you see him out on the water, you can rack his brain. He'd be more than willing to answer a question or two. And he's probably going to take your money if you decide to if you decide to fish an Air Capital tournament with us. We've got some attendance. Our attendance is kind of on the rise right now with Air Capital. We've kind of fell off a little bit, over the last couple years, just with my busy schedule. I haven't really been into it as much, so a lot of that is my fault. But we've got like 25 anglers signed up right now to compete in our series, and we'll see a few people join us throughout the year. So we're excited about having some new folks coming and fishing with us. If you guys are interested in joining the club, Marco is a good person to ask, as well as myself. We've got our club schedule is up. I haven't really done much advertising for our website, but it's at aircapitalkayakanglers.com. We've got that up and running now. Got our full schedule up there. We're going to be keeping up to date Angler of the Year standings, so you guys know exactly where you are. And we're going to fish 8 tournaments this year, and we're going to do the best out of the best 5 out of 8. So you'll be able to drop your lowest 3 scores, and that's how we'll determine Angler of the Year. Another cool thing that we're doing is we are going to award 100 points to first place, and then second place is going to drop down, not to 99, but it's going to drop down to 98. So, the idea is if you're a fairly consistent angler and you can win a couple events, then you're probably going to come out with AOY. But this is something that we went over with Jacob, and so these type of conversations are going to spark changes within not only our styles of fishing, but also potentially affect rules and regulations in our clubs along the way, which I think is for the better. I was talking to Marco about it. How do you feel about that change?
Oh, I think it's a good change. It's gonna definitely put a different spin on it, and I wouldn't have won last year if it had been this format. Jay was out there stomping, getting first every other tournament.
Did you win a couple?
I think I only won one last year.
Which one was that?
The very last one out there at Winfield or Timber Creek.
But you were always Marco's always up there. But I guess the idea is, there may be those guys that are always up there. Like, I feel like I'm always somewhere up there, but I don't ever get to win. So this format isn't going to favor me at all. It's really going to make those guys that are consistently getting first place, and top 5s in first place. Like, if you can mix in a win every now and then you should be in good.
Yeah.
Good
showing up to every tournament is definitely, I think, is the best way to have the best odds. Is just show up to all of them if you can.
Yeah, if you can do all 8 and you have a couple bad turnouts, if you have a couple bad showings, then you just drop those scores.
Definitely happens.
So it does happen. It does happen for sure. Well, guys, I really appreciate Marco coming on the show with us. I've known Marco for, 2015? So probably close to 6 years now. And so I've learned some things about him. I know you guys have too. If you have any more comments for him, drop them in the comment section below. And let us know if you have any suggestions for the series. Do you have anything else that you can think of?
I don't think so.
Cool, man. Well, thank you
ready
for
to fish.
Yeah, we're ready to get out there. It's late February, and it's probably the coldest it's ever been this time of year in the last several years. So we've got a tournament coming up at Winfield City Lake, March 20th. So 30 days, roughly, less than 30 days from now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we are going to be fishing that one, and we're probably looking at below 30 water temps, I would imagine, at this point. So we'll see. We might be fishing in 40-degree water temps here in a month.
Yikes. I hope so. Hope to be fishing.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. This is Behind the Reel. Marco Munoz. We'll see you guys next time.
Later.